Once upon a time in New York City, where taxis honk like it's a national sport and pigeons walk like they own the place, there lived a small, scruffy terrier named Charlie. Charlie wasn't fancy, no diamond collar, no custom dog bed. He lived with his owner, Mr. Joe Henderson, a retired firefighter who wore flannel shirts year-round and smelled faintly of coffee and bravery. Every morning, Joe and Charlie had a ritual. Joe grabbed his newspaper and coffee. Charlie grabbed his leash, and together they'd walk to the corner bagel shop. Routine, simple, perfect. Until one Tuesday morning, things went south. Joe bent down to tie his shoe, and Charlie, distracted by a hot dog cut, wandered off. By the time Joe looked up, his little buddy had vanished into the New York crowd like a crumb on a city sidewalk. Joe ran through the streets, yelling, "Charlie, Charlie," but all he got were confused looks and one guy who yelled back, "Hey pal, I'm not Charlie, I'm Tony." Hours passed, the sun set. Joe was heartbroken. Meanwhile, Charlie was 2 blocks away, sniffing every corner of Manhattan like a tourist with no map. By the time he realized he was lost, he was surrounded by skyscrapers, honking cars, and food carts. He whimpered softly, looking round. He didn't know where home was, but he did know one thing. Joe always took a yellow taxi home. Charlie trotted up to a taxi parked at a red light. The driver, a burly man with a thick Brooklyn accent, lowered his sunglasses and said, "Well, look who we got here. You lost, little guy." Charlie barked once and wagged his tail like he meant, "Yes, sir, and I need a ride." The driver laughed. "You serious? You want a cab?" "Where to, doggy?" Charlie barked twice, then ran around to the passenger door. The driver couldn't believe it, but hey, it's New York. We've seen weirder. He opened the door. "All right, Mr. Dog, hop in." Charlie jumped right onto the seat like a pro. The driver turned on his meter just for fun. "So, where we going?" Charlie looked out the window, ears perking up every time they passed a familiar smell, Joe's bagel shop, the park bench they sat on, the deli where Joe always bought beef jerky. Then, as the cab slowed near a little brick building with green shutters, Charlie started barking and wagging so hard his whole body shook. The driver squinted. "This your stop, boss." Charlie barked 3 times, confirmed. The driver pulled over. And there, on the front steps, sat Joe Henderson, holding a leash and a broken heart. Joe looked up when he heard the cab door open, and there was Charlie leaping out like a furry missile. Charlie, they hugged right there on the sidewalk. Well, Joe hugged, Charlie mostly licked. Joe looked up at the cabbie and said, "You brought him back?" The driver laughed. "Nah, man. He brought himself, flagged me down and everything. Smartest passenger I had all day." Joe wiped a tear, handed the driver a 20 and said, "Keep the change and the story. You just met the smartest dog in New York." The story went viral. A week later, there was a headline in the New York Times: "Lost dog hails taxi to find his way home." Charlie got a shiny new tag that read, "Charlie the taxi dog, if lost." Just call a cab. He even got invited on morning TV. He sat on the couch next to a news anchor and licked her coffee cup. America loved him. But at home, things went back to normal. Joe and Charlie walked to the bagel shop every morning again, except now every taxi driver on that street honked and waved at them. And whenever Charlie heard a car horn, his tail wagged like crazy, as if he was saying, "Don't worry, I know my way back now."